Good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates. Another episode of the EMA program this evening. We want to welcome everybody who has joined us here on the program this evening. I'm waiting for YouTube to acknowledge that we're even on the air here. Gosh. This really bothers me when YouTube doesn't even show us to be on the air yet. And it's already past time to be on the air. Here we go. It's already past time to be on the air. Here we go. We want to welcome everybody who's joined us here on the program. My name is Ron Tyler. You're watching Emergency Management Associates. We're coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. We have Juanito from El Centro, California here. Richard Smith from Nova Scotia, Canada. Renee Steffi from here in North Carolina. Welcome, welcome. Richard's given us a 5x5. That means we've got audio and video here, and it's good audio and video. Ray Spur gave us 5x5. We have Ring of Light Crafts here. Heidi Petrick is here. Welcome, Heidi, from Bothell, Washington. We appreciate you so much. Juanito just gave us another 5x5. We have Jazzers 1 here. Sue Lehman is here. Thank you, Sue, for being here. God bless you. We appreciate you here. Renee Steffi is also giving us a 5x5. Folks, we appreciate all of you joining us here on the program tonight. Now, I want to first talk about some earthquakes. Yes, we have had earthquakes. Okay? I want to point those earthquakes out where they were. We've had some earthquakes over in the south part of California, the southern part of California. These earthquakes, folks, are anywhere from 1.5, which are tremors, all the way up to 4.1 earthquakes. 1.5 to 4.1 earthquakes. And they're still not acknowledging everything that's going on. They're not acknowledging everything. I want to point that out right now. Now, right here is a 1.75 in Mira Loma, California. Mira Loma is just south of Loma Linda. Loma Linda is where the huge world-renowned medical center is, Loma Linda Medical Center. This is just south of there, 1.75 tremor. We go further south and east, Banning, California. This is a 1.14 tremor. Notice they are not acknowledging all the earthquakes. They are absolutely not acknowledging all the earthquakes. We have a bunch of earthquakes in this area, anywhere from 1.5 all the way up to 4.1 earthquakes. A 4.1 earthquake struck here last night. This is over in the San Bernardino Mountain area of Southern California. Look where it's at. See this fault? This is a San Andreas fault. Okay? This is exactly where the scientists and myself worry about what's going to happen. We keep talking about that. We keep talking about it every day. Why am I concerned about what's going on the Southern California San Andreas Fault? Because that is exactly where we have problems. The southern part of the San Andreas Fault, starting up around Banning, California, San Bernardino County, California, Idlewild, that whole area there. The scientists are worrying that there is seismic activity there that's going to split the fault. There's going to be a major earthquake in this area. There is going to be a major earthquake in this area. That's why they're not showing it here on the map. But I'm going to tell you right now it's going to happen. Yes, we are seeing some earthquakes that are south of there. Idlewild, California, well, that's in the San Bernardino Mountain area. Look at where Idlewild is right here. And the San Andreas Fault here. Just south and west of Idlewild is the Anza, California area. Right there. The Anza, California area. This whole area here is all part of the Anza-Borrego Desert area in northeast San Diego, California. Northeast San Diego, California. That area is affected by the San Jacinto Fault. The San Jacinto Fault will be affected by the San Andreas Fault here. The San Jacinto Fault here will be affected by the San Andreas Fault here. It's going to happen. Anytime you get such a major earthquake as we are going to have right here, it's going to affect all the other faults. I promise you it will affect all the other faults. And it's not just there. It is absolutely not just there. Now, I want to show you this. Do you know where this area is here? This is commonly referred to as Lake Elsinore, or as I used to call it, as well as many other people, Lake Smell-Some-More. There is another fault right here. This is the Elsinore Fault. The Elsinore Fault. It's also going to be affected by what? The San Andreas Fault here. Anytime we get a major earthquake, it's going to affect all the other faults around it, including the ancillary faults. The ancillary faults, all around the Los Angeles basin. Now, I want to go back into LA for a minute. Home Gardens, California, a 0.77 microquake. Okay? Let's take a look at these other two quakes here. Corona, California. We continue to see earthquakes in Corona, California. This is a 0.9 microquake here. This other quake here is a 1.19 tremor. There's been quite a few earthquakes in this area. Quite a few. Quite a large swarm of earthquakes in Corona, California. Okay? That's just another area that's going to be hit. Other faults all over Los Angeles. The greater Los Angeles basin. The greater Los Angeles basin over here. Expect this area here to be inundated. Expect it to be inundated. Now, while they're not showing any earthquakes in the greater LA area, there are earthquakes here. I promise you. There are earthquakes here. Long Beach is getting nailed right now. Anywhere from 1.5 tremors on up to 3.0 earthquakes in Long Beach. As always, Disneyland and Anaheim is also getting hit. 3.0 earthquakes are still rounding up here in the Long Beach area. Expect that to continue. State Street and Light Hype. State Street and Light Hype are continuing to get hit. Okay? It's going to happen. Anytime where you have this much energy throughout Southern California, you're going to get hit. Now, tomorrow I'll show you all the seismograms from the Los Angeles area. I'm going to prove a point. The point is, Southern California needs to be preparing for a very large earthquake. And we've been talking about this quite significantly over the past months and even over the past year. But now all these earthquakes are made manifest. All these earthquakes that we've been talking about are now happening. Literally all over. Yes, we've seen tremors. We've seen minor earthquakes. Now they're getting larger. They're getting larger. North of Los Angeles, Menlo Park, Griffith Observatory is getting hit now. Okay? And it's not just that. Moore Park, Pardee, communities that are north of Los Angeles are getting hit. Now, you can't stop it. You can't stop it. We're seeing larger tremors even over in the oil and gas producing area of Baldwin Hills. That's also continuing. The tremors that have been seen in the Baldwin Hills are getting larger. Okay? That whole area is getting ready to pop. That whole area is getting ready to pop. Now, if you go over into the Los Angeles area and pull a seismogram from the LA Downtown Emergency Operations Center, it's not going to show you anything. That is because they have pulled the seismogram. They pulled the electronics out of the Emergency Operations Center. All they're showing is garbage, what they call abstract. It's trash, because they know exactly what is happening in Los Angeles. They know exactly what is happening in Los Angeles, and they do not want to admit what is going on. Okay? Now, Renee Sebi says all that energy is moving east. Yes, some of it is. It absolutely is. But that's not even half the problem. Until we get that major earthquake over along the San Andreas Fault, nothing's going to simmer down. Absolutely nothing's going to simmer down. It's only going to get worse. Yes, Sophia, I am fine. I am fine. I promise you, I am fine. Now, Richard Smith is saying the patterns are forming deep in the earth. Richard, you're absolutely right. And yes, things are getting ready to rumble. If you thought wrestling was crazy, it's getting bigger than wrestling now. When you see a wrestler fall on the mat from 6 to 8 feet high, you think that's gonna make the place rumble? Only for a few minutes. When the San Andreas Fault opens up, it's not going to stop for several minutes. That area will rock for quite some time. The Los Angeles area will rot for quite some time once the San Andreas Fault opens up. And it's getting ready. Now, I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow, or even this weekend or next week, but it is going to happen. I have fielded numerous, I want to say 6 telephone calls already today in regards to the earthquakes over in the Banning, San Bernardino Mountain area. 6 phone calls already today. And that's just today. Every day we field more and more telephone calls from the area around the San Andreas Fault. People that are feeling what's going on. And you have a right to know. You have an absolute right to know. When you live in that area and the earth starts shaking, people start wondering, is this happening? Yes, indeed. Is this an earthquake? It absolutely is. Now, just about an hour ago, I fielded a phone call from Illinois. One of our viewers in Illinois felt what they thought was an earthquake. I believe it was thunder. Thunder. High resonant thunder. Thunder also makes earth shake. If you've ever been in an area where there's been heavy duty thunder, your home shakes. In this case, this woman was in her bathroom and the ground shook. The ground shook. And it wasn't just her, it was her neighbors as well. It happens. It happens. It's going to continue to happen. Are you going to be ready? Have you prepared? Do you know what preparation's necessary? Have you been watching our programs? Have you been listening? Have you actually been preparing and doing those things necessary to help yourselves and your family? If not, you better start. You better start. It's not just California, guys. It is not just California. Renee Steffi is asking in the chat, are you prepared? Tomorrow may be too late. Don't procrastinate. You and your loved ones depend on you. You and your family depend on you. If something happens and you're not prepared, guess what? You didn't do your job. And you're going to feel like you're in a world of hurt. And yes, that is exactly what's going to happen. You are going to be in a world of hurt. Because there's nobody else to blame but yourself. Nobody's going to do it for you. I want to emphasize that. Nobody else is going to do it for you. I can't do it for you. I can talk about it. I can show product and other things that you need to have in your arsenal, in your backpacks, in your totes. If you haven't already done it, nobody's going to do it for you. I promise you that. Nobody else is going to do it for you. Now, I have even spoken with other people in the preparedness industry. Some of them sell the product. Some of them have access to the product themselves. Why are they not prepared? Because they don't really get it. They don't really get it. That's what's sad. They don't get it. They don't think that it is them that needs to prepare. They go about their everyday duties, take care of their kids and send their kids off to school. They go about their jobs and don't even think about what's going on. But the fact of the matter is, everybody needs to prepare. Me. Yes, I have been preparing for many, many years. I've been talking about emergency preparedness myself since approximately, I want to say, 1985. When my parents were putting survival dinners on at their church that they went to, they asked me and my wife and our other siblings to help out in their home cooking food for 200-300 people. And that night, myself and others were talking about emergency preparedness and what everybody needs to do to be prepared. I can't do it for you. I can show you, I can talk about it, I can take you by the hand. But it is obviously you that has to do it. Richard Smith says a lot of 30-year-old buckets of food they have. Some people do. Did you know when my parents died that there were survival buckets of food in their home? There were canned foods. There were beets, canned corn, canned meats, all kinds of canned vegetables. There was canned peaches and canned apples and other fruit. There was canned jams and jellies that my mother had prepared for our family. And most of this food is still good. Most of it is still good. And my mother has been dead since 1981. Folks, you can prepare. You need to prepare, and you need to start preparing right now. And I'm talking immediately. And it's not just people in Los Angeles that need to be prepared. It's not just people from LA that need to be prepared. Seiko just got in here in the chat. Seiko's from Africa, in the Congo. Welcome, Seco. We appreciate you being here. Folks, everybody has to prepare. It's not just about the United States of America. I saw a video today, and I've seen many videos over the past, I want to say at least 2 years, of a huge rift. A huge rift in Africa that's going to split the African continent in two. What is it? What is a rift zone? Folks, we have been talking about the Mid-Atlantic Fault expanding. The Mid-Atlantic Fault is a rift zone. It's pulling apart just like this. The African rift is also pulling apart. The interesting thing about that is right now there's no water in that rift zone in Africa. It's an open earthquake fault. It's a deep fault zone. You guys have seen it. When we've talked about Iceland, we talked about huge fissures that opened up before the volcanoes. Large, deep fissures opened up in the earth. That is exactly what is happening in the Mid-Atlantic Ocean. The Mid-Atlantic Fault goes right down the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. The Mid-Atlantic Fault is expanding like this. It's a huge open fissure. A huge open fissure right in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. The continent of Africa also has a fissure that's opening up. It's getting deeper and it's getting longer. At some point in time, and this is happening all around the world, not just in the Atlantic Ocean or in Africa. This is how continents are made. Tectonic plates splitting. Tectonic plates splitting. We've seen this happen. It's happening in Africa. It's happening in the Atlantic Ocean. It's happening right in the middle of Iceland. Right smack dab in the middle of Iceland, guys. If you think I'm wrong, go check it yourself. I've talked about it. I've talked to Professor Thorvaldsson in Iceland, in Reykjavik, Iceland. I've talked to scientists and volcanologists in the Canary Islands. I've talked to scientists all over the world. They are telling me the same thing. We need to adapt. We need to be very serious about what we're doing. Now I see 69 people here on our program. I honestly thought we'd have more people on the program than this. We've been on the program now on the air for over 23 minutes. And yet we only have 68 people watching the program. We usually see 100, 115, and 120 people watching this program. What's wrong? What's wrong with this picture? People aren't interested. People don't care. Maybe that's it. Maybe we talked about this too much. Maybe we ought to let it alone. I don't want to do that. I do not want to let this alone at all. Because if I do, thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, are going to be hurt and killed. Thousands to hundreds of thousands are going to be hurt and killed. I am trying to save lives with the Emergency Preparedness Associates broadcast. The Emergency Management Associates broadcast. Yes, we do talk about preparedness. A lot. A lot. Every day we talk about preparedness. Songstress 59 Griffin is saying complacency, and that's exactly what it is. People have been hearing about it. People decided, well, it's not going to happen to me. Or it's probably not going to happen for a while. So I can get by for a while. Well, folks, I'm telling you right now, your while is now 50 seconds past that time. And I'm going to tell you that things are going to happen. And they're going to happen quite rapidly. I've talked about this and it's happened. I'm telling you right now to prepare. Okay? I'm telling you right now to prepare. The richest YouTube channel is here in the chat. Like he said, they don't know or understand the reality of existence, of its happening. Maybe you don't understand the reality of this existence that we live in. Well, when it starts coming apart very shortly, you're going to get it, because you're going to see it. Then I believe it might be too late. It might be too late. I talk about it, and I'm not going to continue to let it go. I can't. Now, you don't have to go out and buy all this preparedness food that they have to sell out on the street. Yes, I do have my share of survival food, freeze-dried food. The reason I have my share of food is because that is just in addition to the food that my wife and I have stored in our pantry. Right now we have over 6 months of food in our home. Over 6 months worth of food in our home. We also have a survival garden out on our patio. Right now our pumpkin patch is expanding to take over our patio. I have a feeling we're going to have pumpkins galore. I planted watermelon. Our watermelon is also growing. We're going to have watermelon very shortly. I'm grateful for that. But we have beans and peas. We have squash. We have tomatoes. We have lettuce growing. We have herbs growing. We have peppers growing. We have cucumbers growing. We have a lot of vegetables here. And by September or October, before it gets really cold, we're going to have plenty of vegetables to eat. We're going to can them and freeze them. Dustin Taglig just gave us a $2 super chat. Thank you so much. He says, I'm going to start beginning. I'm late. Dustin, I want you to hurry. I have a distinct feeling that things are going to happen very rapidly now. I'm not a soothsayer. I am not a prophet. I don't have a crystal ball. I do not have a crystal ball. By the way, speaking of crystal balls, earlier this afternoon I went to my post box. By the way, I'm going to tell you my post office box right now. Our address is 104 North Green Street. 104 North Green Street, and it is box 105. Morganton, North Carolina. The zip code here is 28655. Now, one of my dear friends is already here. He's the one that sent us a box. He sent us a box of rocks that I am going to have a lot of fun with. He sent me some obsidian. Those of you that have been with me a great long time know that I have a rock collection. And yes, I have what they call snowflake obsidian. It's absolutely beautiful. Tomorrow I will show you specimens from what Demon Catman sent me. Demon Catman, I want to thank you for what you've done for me. You should have seen my smile on my face. I was absolutely overjoyed to see those rocks in your collection that you gave me. I really appreciate it, from the east of England. Demon Catman is from the east of England. He's a great man. I see Canadian Patriot 1 here. Thank you, Dave, for being here. Our friend Anne Marie is also here. Thank you so much for being here, Anne. We appreciate you. We appreciate everybody that's here. We now have over 81 people here in the program here. I appreciate that. We have 41 likes. I would hope that you would turn the likes upside down here. I would hope to see 105, 120, 150, 175 likes before the end of this program. We need likes to show YouTube that we mean business here. YouTube keeps suppressing this program. The other day, in fact yesterday, I want to tell you the numbers that YouTube said we had here after the end of our program. We had a 2-hour program last night. YouTube said we had 121 people that saw our program. Do you want me to tell you what YouTube did? Let me tell you what YouTube did. On the outside of the program, if anybody was to click on our program to go look at it after we got off the air, it would show us 121 people had seen the program. But in all reality, the inner part of the analytics showed 582. The bad thing about that, we have had anywhere from 1,285 people that watch our program on any given night. Upwards of 2,500 people on any given night. So YouTube only showing us 582 on the analytics inside the program, you know something's wrong. YouTube is suppressing our program. They do not want people to know who's here. They don't want anybody to see what we're talking about. Heaven forbid we announce something major, nobody's going to know about it because YouTube is not going to let them see it. That's what I fear. When we talked about major earthquakes in the past, we've had upwards of 5,000 people that watch those programs. I have a feeling that YouTube is going to suppress all of our viewers from now on. They don't want anybody to know what's going on. Heath Whittles here in the chat says he's 59 and a non-smoker. He also has to use oxygen. It's good to see that it's not holding you back. God bless. No, it's not. Now, for those of you that know me, you know that I was a law enforcement officer. I also was a law enforcement instructor. I taught firearms, high-powered firearms. I taught sidearms training. I taught all manner of police enforcement. I taught all manner of police protection and protection of the community. During that protection training, I wore what they call a red man padded suit. And even though I wore a red man rubber padded suit, I still got jabs by police officers with batons into my abdomen and into my chest area. They jabbed me with their batons. Guess what happened to me? Between the police instruction that I gave and getting in fights out on the street, of which I won, I was never completely injured on the street. I won those fights. And of course, Motorola is faster than any police car. I won those fights. But after a number of years of sustaining blows to my abdomen and blows to the chest, my right diaphragm was damaged. My right diaphragm is paralyzed, so I don't have much use of my right diaphragm or my right lung. That's why I'm on oxygen. But it might try to slow me down, but it doesn't stop me. I'm still on the air. I'm still trying to go out and do my day-to-day responsibility, not just in my home, but out in my community. I meet with emergency managers, local emergency managers in the area where I live. I meet with fire departments. I meet with police and sheriff departments. I want to make sure everybody is ready and knowledgeable for what they're going to face. I want to make sure everybody is ready for what's going to happen, because it's not going to be pleasant. I'm telling you right now, what is going to happen is not going to be pleasant. Okay? A year before I got here, 4 years ago, there was an earthquake, a large 5.1 earthquake. That earthquake hit Sparta, North Carolina. That earthquake was an hour and 45 minutes northwest of where I live. 3 years ago, after I first got here, one of my friends and I went and visited Sparta, North Carolina. There was damage. I met with two of the founding fathers of that community. They showed me pictures of homes and buildings thrown off their foundations. They showed me pictures of homes with plates that were thrown out of the cupboards that they were in and landed on the floor, shattered in millions of pieces. They showed silverware laying all over the floors. They showed file cabinets thrown open onto the floors. They showed me beds completely torn apart by the earthquake. They showed me pictures and paintings thrown onto the floor. They also showed me great big huge fissures that opened up into the ground, on the ground. And it was only a 5.1 earthquake up here along the Continental Divide in North Carolina. On the Continental Divide here in North Carolina. What do you think we've been showing you during the past few years since I've been here? Yes, they have shown, the news media has shown 1.5, 2.5 earthquakes hitting down in South Carolina. Elgin and Lugoff, South Carolina. Folks, what have I been doing since I got here? When those earthquakes hit, I started showing you seismograms with earthquakes on the seismograms, and those earthquakes were larger than what USGS and the news media was putting out for Lugoff and Elgin, South Carolina. 2.5, 3.0, 3.5 earthquakes, and Lugoff and Elgin and what's the name of that town I just got to tell you about? Over in South Carolina. Earthquakes were larger than they said they were. Why? Because nobody wants to talk about what's really happening. Nobody wants to admit the power of the Atlantic Plate. Nobody wants to admit to the power of the Atlantic Plate, the expansion of the Atlantic Plate, the rift zone in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean that is forcing the North American continent to have earthquakes. Nobody wants to show that, do they? And guess what? That is exactly what is going on. That is exactly what's going on. And for people to be ignoring it is a travesty. It is a travesty. Today, over here along the Atlantic coast, Maryland, Spencerville, Maryland, a 1.8 tremor. A 1.8 tremor over here in Spencerville, Maryland today. Guess what? It is right downtown Eastern Continental Divide. Right downtown Eastern Continental Divide. Folks, it's happening. We've been talking about earthquakes hitting over in Quebec. We've shown you earthquakes along the Eastern Continental Divide in Quebec, Canada. They're as far north as northeastern Canada. We've shown you earthquakes all up and down the coast. I don't know how much more I can tell you that we haven't shown you. Big Nasty 517 is asking, any state safe from this? No. No. Now, some of you are going to ask me, well, what is? Safety is relative. Safety is a relative word. Safety is a relative word. Why do I say that? Because what you think might be safe to me is not. What Richard might be think is safe is not safe down in California. What our friends and my own family down there in Southern California think is safe is not safe in North Dakota. It's not safe here in North Carolina. I think I am relatively safe here where I live because I am in the foothills of the Eastern Continental Divide. I am not on top of the mountain. The top of the mountain here, the Blue Ridge Mountains, is where the earthquakes are going to hit. They have already hit. They're going to continue to get hit because the Atlantic plate is pushing on the Continental Divide. The Atlantic plate is pushing on the Continental Divide. And it's causing mountain building. It's causing mountain building. The Blue Ridge and Appalachian Mountains are going to rise because the Atlantic plate is pushing them. The Blue Ridge and Appalachian Mountains are going to rise even higher. And with that, they're going to have earthquakes. I promise you, they're going to have more earthquakes. Yes, we are probably going to have more earthquakes here in Morganton, North Carolina. 2 years ago, here in Morganton, where I live, just about 10 minutes away from where I live, we had a 4.5 earthquake. A 4.5 earthquake. Now, a 4.5 magnitude earthquake is just a moderate quake. USGS is now calling 4.0 to 4.9 earthquakes light earthquakes. Light earthquakes. There is nothing light about a 4.0 to a 4.9 earthquake. There's nothing light about it. Moderate earthquakes are going to cause moderate damage. Moderate earthquakes cause books and little trinkets to fall off shelves. Moderate earthquakes cause plates and dishes and glass objects in the cupboards to shake, rattle, and fall off the shelves. We've seen it happen. Large earthquakes, 5.0, 5.9. Folks, they are calling those moderate earthquakes now. There is nothing moderate about a 5.0 to a 5.9 earthquake. 5.0, 5.9 are large earthquakes, and I wish they'd stop calling them moderate earthquakes. Why? Because large 5.0 to 5.9 earthquakes can cause death and serious injury. I've seen full-blown homes and apartment buildings fall down during a 5.6 to 5.9 quake. That's why we previously called those 5.5 to 5.9 quakes very large, because that is exactly what those earthquakes are. They are very large earthquakes. They are not moderate earthquakes. They can cause large damage and death and serious injury. That's what can happen. That is exactly what can happen. For anybody to say it's not going to happen, they're out of their ever-loving minds. I've been in large earthquakes. One of my police partners and I drove up to Northridge after the Northridge quake in 1994. I saw what large earthquakes were. That was more than just a large earthquake. The first night I got up there was right after the earthquake happened earlier that day. When I got there, my partner and I drove around and tried to help people. When we decided it was time to go to sleep, we had pitched our tents right beside our police car. We got in our tents. I had just fallen asleep when a 5.5 aftershock hit. I was thrown up into the air like this, and I came down out of the air like this. Smacked my back onto the ground, and it was painful. Now, I probably was not more than this far off the ground. The earthquake probably did not launch me more than 6 or 8 inches off the ground. But it was enough to land my back on the ground hard, and it was painful. My partner felt the same way. Now, in those minutes after that quake, we launched out of our tents, out of our sleeping bags and out of our tents, and we looked at each other and we go, hell, what just happened? What the hell just happened? That hurt. And we got ourselves woken up. There is no way in heck that we could have fallen back asleep that night. So we packed things up and threw them in the back of the police car and took off, driving around the streets helping people. Because many people were back out of their homes, out in the yards, setting up to try to go back to sleep after that same aftershock. And aftershocks kept hitting all day long that day and all night long and into the next day and many days afterwards. We were there. We saw it happen. Folks, the same thing is going to happen again. This time, the San Andreas Fault is going to be involved. We've seen the San Andreas Fault licking and kicking and moving and shaking. We have not yet seen a major event on the San Andreas Fault in a lot of years. I can promise you that a very much larger earthquake is about to hit the Southern California area, and it's not going to be pretty. It's not. The richest YouTube channel's here in our chat tonight. He says he is in Oregon. He can see Interstate 5. One's going to hit. There will be another earthquake in Oregon. I promise you that. There's going to be also another volcanic eruption in Oregon. Before that, there's going to be an eruption of Mount St. Helens. USGS is trying to play down the fact that Mount St. Helens is having earthquakes. Mount St. Helens is having a lot of earthquakes. They want to downplay the fact that that volcano is getting ready to erupt. They're downplaying it. Just like they downplayed it the last time. 58 people were killed because USGS downplayed the fact that that volcano was going to erupt. 58 people killed and a lot of people injured as a result of the eruption of Mount St. Helens. One of their own geologists died. One of their own geologists died. Guys, I wouldn't want that to happen to you. How would you like to be in that area around Mount St. Helens when it erupts, with hot ash falling on top of you? That scientist had a pickup truck with a camper on the back of it. I am sure he tried to get in there. When hot ash was falling out of the sky, at first he was watching it. He watched it erupt, and then he realized that when it was erupting, the hot ash was falling all around him. Unreal. Are you ready for that? Because yes, it's going to happen. The richest YouTube channel's here asking a question. Can I ask a question? How far inland would it go in? I can't tell you. There is no right or wrong answer about how far inland the hot ash, the hot gases from the eruption is going to go. There is no right or wrong answer. Depending on the size of the eruption, it could go for miles inland. It could go for many miles inland. The fact of the matter is, the last time Mount Rainier and Mount St. Helens erupted, there is ash that traveled all the way over to Minnesota, South Dakota, North Dakota, Minnesota, and over into the Great Lakes. Unreal. Unreal. Ash from either one or both of those eruptions went all that far east, depending on the wind, depending on how high the wind is, depending on how high the eruption is. That's going to depend on what's going to happen. Richest YouTube channel says, if the big one hit, how far inland would it go? Let me bring up the map. Let me bring up the map. I need to show you what's happening. Apparently, some of you have not been around for previous programs. You haven't seen what I've shown you. Now, first off, earthquake. You guys are talking about the Cascadia megathrust earthquake. The Cascadia megathrust earthquake is going to happen right up here in this area, just off the coast of Washington. Just off the coast of Washington and Vancouver Island. It's going to happen here. This is the Juan de Fuca Fault here. Juan de Fuca Fault. Let me pull this down here. Right up here, this is Queen Charlotte Island here. Queen Charlotte Island. This is British Columbia, Canada. Notice this. The Juan de Fuca Fault goes all the way up here. It also goes all the way down here. Down here is Oregon. It goes all the way from Queen Charlotte Island, British Columbia, all the way down here to northern Oregon. That's the Juan de Fuca Fault. The Cascadia subduction zone goes from the Queen Charlotte Island all the way down here, following the coastline of British Columbia, Canada, past Vancouver, Canada, down here along the coast of Washington, down here along the coast of Oregon, all the way down here to Northern California. The Cascadia subduction zone goes from Queen Charlotte Island all the way down south to Northern California. We talked about the Juan de Fuca Fault. It goes over here into northern Oregon, off the coast of northern Oregon. What is this? This fault here. This is called the Blanco Fracture Zone. The Blanco Fracture Zone right here. The Blanco Fracture Zone pretty much covers most of Oregon. It comes from the Juan de Fuca Fault over here to the northwest, and it goes to the southeast over here. It connects with what they call the Gorda Ridge here. This is the Gorda Ridge here. We've seen earthquakes even lately here on the Gorda Ridge. We've seen many earthquakes here on the Blanco Fracture Zone, and we've seen many earthquakes here on the Juan de Fuca Fault. Right here, this earthquake here, it's on the Juan de Fuca, right off the coast of Vancouver Island. This is Port Hardy, British Columbia. This is a 3.12 earthquake, a small 3.12 earthquake. It's off the central coast of Vancouver Island. We've seen many earthquakes here, a lot of earthquakes here. Now, before I continue talking about what is there, I want to come back down here to the Gorda Ridge. The Gorda Ridge comes over here from the Blanco Fracture Zone, and it comes down here to what they call the Gorda Escarpment here. The Gorda Escarpment. The Gorda Escarpment comes off from Northern California here, and it goes way out into the ocean. The Gorda Escarpment. In fact, it goes so far out into the Pacific, it also goes up to Kamchatka Peninsula. The Gorda Escarpment here goes all the way out towards the Kamchatka Peninsula in Russia. But what you need to know here, you see the Cascadia Subduction Zone here. It intersects with that Gorda Escarpment. But there is one more earthquake fault here. One more earthquake fault here. This is the San Andreas Fault. The San Andreas Fault. It connects here just offshore of Northern California. This is called the Triple Junction. The Triple Junction. The Triple Junction of the Gorda Escarpment, the Cascadia Subduction Zone, and the San Andreas Fault, the Triple Junction. We've seen many, many earthquakes here. Many, many earthquakes. Many, many earthquakes. Now, you need to know, when the Cascadia Subduction Zone earthquake happens, the scientists are saying that it's going to happen right here in this area, between the Juan de Fuca Fault and the Cascadia Subduction Zone, right here. The earthquake is going to be so large, it's going to be unbelievable. There will be so much shaking that people won't even be able to stand. People won't be able to stand. This will be such a devastating earthquake. It's going to be a 9.0, 10.0 earthquake. A very dangerous earthquake. A very dangerous earthquake. Now, this earthquake is going to be felt all the way up into Alaska. Yes, it's going to be here. It's going to happen right here. But it's going to be felt all the way up into Alaska. It's also going to be felt all the way down here. All the way down south. All the way down south in here into northern Mexico. It's going to be felt all the way down south here into northern Mexico. Now you might ask me why. Why, Ron, will it be felt all the way down there? The simple answer is this. I want you all to remember this. Commit this to memory. When this earthquake hits, number one, it's not going to be a 6.0, 7.0 earthquake, and that's what we are expecting on the San Andreas Fault down here in Southern California. It's not going to be that small. And yes, a 7.0 earthquake is a very strong earthquake. 6.0, 6.9 are considered to be very strong quakes. 7.0 and larger are called major earthquakes. This earthquake here is going to be a 9 to a 10.0 earthquake. A 9 to a 10.0 earthquake. The largest earthquake anybody has seen in a very long time. Okay? That earthquake is going to shake from Alaska. It's going to go the shaking is going to be felt up in Alaska, and it's going to be felt all the way down south into northern Mexico. That's because the Cascadia subduction zone goes down here to the San Andreas Fault. The Juan de Fuca Fault up here also connects down here. It connects to the Blanco Fracture Zone, it connects to the Gorda Ridge, it connects down here to the Gorda Escarpment. It connects here at the San Andreas Fault, the Triple Junction. Now, back in 2019, there was a seismologist convention of geologists and seismologists in San Francisco, December 23rd, 2019. The scientists then were talking about the quake. Chris Goldfinger, who is a chief geologist and professor of geology at Oregon State University, told the crowd then that the San Andreas Fault would be triggered by the Cascadia subduction zone. The San Andreas Fault here is going to be triggered by the Cascadia megathrust earthquake here. It's going to trigger the San Andreas Fault. That is why that energy will be amplified all the way down here into northern Mexico. Meaning, the San Andreas Fault will be transmitting probably anywhere from 9.0 down here to 8.0 earthquake energy. 9.0 to 8.0 earthquake energy down here. Meaning, the Cascadia megathrust earthquake energy is going to be transmitted all the way down here. The further south it gets, the less energy it's going to put out. I'm only saying that down here in Southern California, you may only feel 8.0 major earthquake energy. You might. But you also might as well be seeing and feeling 9.0, 10.0 energy here. What is that going to do? What is that going to do, ladies and gentlemen? Richest man on YouTube. What do you think that's going to do? Honest String is asking, would Orcas Island be impacted? Absolutely. It'll be destroyed. Orcas Island will be destroyed. Seattle, Tacoma, Friday Harbor, Portland, Oregon will be destroyed. Will be destroyed. Do you all understand what I'm saying? And what that earthquake doesn't destroy. And it's not just Portland, Seattle, Northern California, San Francisco Bay Area, towns and cities all up and down the coast are going to be destroyed by that earthquake shaking. Promise. Judge Roy Bean Jr. is asking, should we move? Northern California? I'm not going to tell you whether you should move or not. That's got to be your own individual decision. That has to be your own individual decision. I will never tell you what to do. But I am going to tell you this. You need to be prepared. Whatever you need to do, you need to be prepared. Promise. Promise. You need to be prepared. Judge, I respect you. I absolutely respect you. Everybody needs to be prepared. From the judge, a city councilman, a mayor, a governor. Judge Roy Bean says, where is a safe location outside of California? Look at a map. The furthest you can get away from the coast, the better. The furthest you can get away from the coast, the better. And I am not talking about the mountains, the Sierra Madre. I'm not talking about the Western Sierras. Why am I saying this? Because the San Andreas Fault is going to be shaking. And everything along it is going to shake. And it's going to shake large. It's going to shake loud. Some of you have already seen and heard earthquake shaking. You've seen it happen. You've also heard the earth shake. You've heard the earth move. You've heard rock rubbing against each other. You've heard it. I've heard it. I've heard it. I used to live in San Diego. When I lived in San Diego, we didn't have earthquakes until I was in my late 20s and early 30s. That is when the 5.6, 5.9 earthquakes hit San Diego. I heard the earth shake. I felt the earth shake. Am I serious? Yes, I am. Judge Roy Bean Jr. says, but what does everywhere have some type of threats? Yes. Yes, they do have threats. All of you need to study out where you might go. You need to study it out for yourself. I can't tell you where to move. I can't tell you where to go. This is an individual decision. This is an individual decision. Now, one of my friends who I respect, he has his own YouTube channel. He goes by Marfugal. Many of you have watched his programs. 3 years ago, I was on his program. We talked about the Cascadia megathrust earthquake that night. A few months later, Marf went south to Ocean Shores, Washington. I showed you where Ocean Shores, Washington was last week. Marf went over to Ocean Shores, Washington. What did he see? What did he hear? Marf spoke to private citizens. Marf spoke to first responders, police, fire, and paramedics. None of them, not one single person had heard of the Cascadia megathrust earthquake. Nobody. Nobody. Nobody had been trained. Nobody's been talked to about what's going to happen or how they're going to respond. The first responders don't even know anything about it. They need to be told what's going on. Marv tried to explain to those that he spoke to what's going to happen. I talked to him. Marv had a brief explanation, not just from me, but other people prior to me talking to him on the radio, on the YouTube channel. He knew something. He knows a lot more now. I sent him many documents showing him what's going to happen and why. Why the earth is going to open up. Right now, today, It's been over 300 years, 300 years since the last Cascadia megathrust earthquakes happened. We are over 32 years past due. We are already 32 years past due. What does that mean? That means earthquake could happen imminently. It could happen at any time. Now, the judge asked me a few minutes ago. What did it say? After the earthquake shaking, preliminary shaking stops. For the next 15 to 20 minutes, you're going to see the water rush away from shore. The water is going to rush away from the shoreline. It's going to go out to sea. Why? Because out to sea is where the different levels of the ocean are. In order for the Cascadia megathrust earthquake to happen, part of the ocean floor is going to drop like this. The ocean floor is going to drop. That is why the water is going to rush away from shore. It's going to fill in the spot in the ocean where the ocean floor dropped. When the ocean water hits that area, it's going to come back like this. We are going to have the largest tsunami that anybody alive has ever seen. The largest tsunami the Earth has ever seen. Oh, I can't say the Earth. The largest tsunami that anybody alive has ever seen. And I'm including what happened down in Bali, Indonesia a few years ago, where hundreds of people were killed and hundreds more were injured by the tsunami after a major earthquake there. What's going to happen along the shores of Washington, Canada, and Oregon, and even Alaska, and all the length of California? What's going to happen? That water is going to rush away from the shore. A large extent of beach is going to be dry. Within 20 minutes after that, the water is going to rush back towards shore. There's going to be a tsunami of anywhere from 50 feet to 150 feet high. From 50 feet to 150 feet high. It's going to hit the shoreline like nothing else before. What the earthquake didn't destroy, the tsunami will. What the tsunami, or what the Cascadia subduction zone earthquake didn't destroy, the tsunami will. 50 to 150 foot wall of water hitting the shoreline. Orcas Island, Fildago Island, Friday Harbor, Lumi Island, Tacoma, Seattle, and every small and large city up and down the entire West Coast will be destroyed. Not just by the shaking of the earth, but by the wall of water that's going to inundate the shoreline. Yes, that water is going to go inland. How far inland, we don't know. The scientists are saying at least 5 miles inland. The scientists and geologists are saying that the earthquake is going to destroy everything west of Interstate 5. And Whitney Island as well. Aubrey Layton is here in the chat saying Whitney Island as well. Whidbey Island is going to be destroyed as well. Whidbey Island. The water is going to go far inland. At least 5 to 10 miles inland. When the water is going to go between buildings in downtown Seattle, downtown Tacoma, and other downtown areas, the water is going to go between these tall buildings. When it goes between those narrow roadways, through those narrow roadways between buildings, it's going to speed up. It's a simple science experiment. Where the water is forced into a narrow area, it starts to move faster. And the faster that water is moving, the further it's going to go. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Nobody has been alive the last time this happened. 332 years ago. Roger Reynolds says liquefaction will be like intense quicksand. You're absolutely right. The shaking of the earth is going to rattle and shake the ground. The shaking of the ground is going to raise the water table. The raise of the water table is going to make all that loamy soil, the clay, the sand, the dirt, it's going to turn that into quicksand. Buildings are going to sink, if not fall over. Street poles, light poles, telephone poles are going to fall as a result of that quicksand effect. It's going to fall. It's going to fall. Homes are going to sink. Cars are going to sink. Stop signs are going to sink. Bicycles, human beings are going to sink where they're standing. Fact. Judge Roy Bean brings up a fact. He's here in the chat again. He says this: is there a place we can download the after action reports from Cascadia Rising? Yes, there is. Go on to Google or whatever search engine you're using. Go there. Put in Cascadia Rising after action reports. You can pull up all kinds of information. Now, you may not see everything. I'm going to tell you, you may not see everything that was written in the after action reports. Now, it's not just Cascadia Rising. I was there in Washington in Spokane in 2014. We did, actually it's 2005. I believe it was June 2005. We did the first Cascadia earthquake drill. We had participants from the state of Washington. We had participants from Vancouver, Canada, from British Columbia, Canada. A lot of people. First responders. We had first responders from up and down Washington, inland and the coastline. We had first responders from Oregon, Northern California. We had first responders from Nevada, from Utah, from Idaho, from Montana and Wyoming. We had the United States National Guard from every state around that area. Why? Because we wanted to indoctrinate everybody that is anywhere near the Cascadia earthquake about what's going to happen. We wanted to talk about what's going to happen so that we might try to save lives when that earthquake is going to happen. Back in 2005, everybody was concerned, and rightfully so. People should still be concerned. People should be scared, and rightfully so. I've spoken to many people that were scared. I've helped settle them down and calm them down. Richard Smith just said something that's very important that I want to share with you. Nothing is safe from nature. Nothing is safe from nature. Judge Roy Bean is asking, what about infrastructure? Judge, the infrastructure will be destroyed. I'm telling you, the infrastructure will be destroyed. Water and gas mains will be broken into millions of pieces. There's going to be fires. There's going to be fire on the water. There's going to be buildings that will explode when those gas lines break. Is there going to be anybody trying to fight fires? Maybe at the beginning. But what happens when that tsunami hits? What happens when the tsunami hits? I can go over into my safe where I have the documents from that earthquake drill. I have documents I've saved because I was not at Cascadia Rising personally, because they wanted me to help them from remotely. When Cascadia Rising happened, we held the drill, and I was part of the drill remotely. My entire thesis was written, and I was the documentarian for that earthquake drill, Cascadia Rising. I documented everything. I documented people that responded. I documented what happened. Because we wrote what they call injects. The authors of the drill wrote what they called injects. Injects are just events or incidents that could happen when that earthquake happens. We documented. We documented it heavily. In the last 10 minutes, we had 120 people watching this program. The number of people that are watching this has gone down to 107 now. That's very poor. I would have thought that more people would be interested in what's going on. Why? Because, folks, it's going to be affecting all of you. This earthquake is going to be affecting everybody. I promise you. Now we have 105 people watching. Why are people not watching what we're doing? Why don't you want to know what's going on? I would. I would not be here if I was as flaky as that. I'm not calling people flakes. But what I am saying is this. This is an absolute necessity. You need to have necessity to want to know what's going on. The lives of yourselves and your families is at stake. The lives of your families are at stake as well as your own. If you're not here watching and listening and taking notes, you're part of the problem. You're part of the problem. I am here trying to help you. I am here telling you what's going on. Because I've been part of 2 major earthquake drills involving Cascadia. I've been talking about it now 5 years. I've been only on the air 5.5 years. I've been talking about Cascadia now for 5 years. I've talked to experts. I've talked to people on the ground. I've talked to residents. I've talked to founding fathers, city councils and mayors. I spoke to the governor. I've spoken to the police chiefs, the fire chiefs, the sheriffs up and down the entire coastline of North America. I spoke to fire captains in Vancouver, from Vancouver. I spoke to Canadian Mounties from Canada. I've spoken to fire captains, police officers in Washington and Oregon and California. I've spoken to entire departments before. Why? Because all of you are going to be affected. I expect to be around when it happens. I am talking to all of you now. Why? Because I want to help you save your lives. I'm trying to help each one of you save your lives and those of your family. The richest YouTube channel says, how far inland would the tsunami go in Oregon? I'm going to say the same thing that I said earlier about Washington, Portland, Oregon, all up and down the coastline of North America. What's going to happen? The water is going to go as far as it goes. Some people think it will go 5 miles inland. We don't know. It might go a lot further. Heidi Petrick just gave us a $5 super chat. Thank you so much for that, Heidi. We greatly appreciate it. Heidi Petrick is one of my friends. She's one of our EMA family members. Heidi, I appreciate you so much. I appreciate all of you who have donated to this program, because we want to make sure we can stay on the air and do this job. It's getting harder and harder to stay on the air. It's costing more and more money to stay on the air. I just got notified that my internet bill is going to almost double. So I appreciate all of you who support our program to keep us on the air. I'm going to try to stay on the air for as long as I possibly can. But with the cost going up, I truly cannot say how long that will be. I was hoping I was going to be staying on the air for years. I hope we still can. JB Maps is here, one of my friends from our program here. JB Maps. He said, Ron, how many folks prefer to live in blissful ignorance? I think it's best to know what's company. I agree. I know it's best to know what's going to happen. It's best to know what's going to happen, guys. I appreciate the judge being here. I only spoke with a couple judges when I was in Washington and Spokane. When I traveled down to Portland on my way south, I spoke to a couple judges in Portland. I spoke to fire chiefs there that have been helping us over in Spokane. We set up a ground footprint in Spokane as if it was Seattle-Tacoma area. We trained the National Guard. We trained the firefighters. We trained the police officers from all over the Western U.S. and Canada. We trained everybody so that when this Cascadia mega thrust earthquake happens, at least the first responders will know what to do. The number of people that are watching our program has gone down to 102 people now. I am really surprised. You would think that people would want to know what's happening. I certainly do. I certainly do. Folks, people can live in blissful ignorance. That's fine. But what do you think is going to happen to your small children, your grandchildren? What are they going to feel like when they find out you're not doing anything? They're looking up at you and saying, Daddy, Grandpa, what's happening? What's happening? I'm scared. What are you going to say to them? That's what I want to know. I want to know what you're going to say to them. Or are you just going to pick them up and say, hold on, we're going to die? I hope it won't go that way. Rich's YouTube channel says, how far inland would this tsunami go in Oregon? It's going to go at least 5 miles. He's asking, would it stop at the I-5 freeway? I don't know. Nobody knows. Or will it go all the way to the other side of the Cascadia Mountains to the east? I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to say this. I would hope and pray that you would take this seriously. It might go past the volcanoes. It might go past the volcanoes to the east. It's possible. I don't know. It is well known to think that the tsunami is going to go at least to Interstate 5. What do I know about that? The ground is going to shake like nothing before. Nobody is alive right now that's seen this kind of shaking. Yes, we have seen 5.9, 6.5, and 6.9 earthquakes hit the Cascadia region. Tacoma and Seattle and Portland. We've seen it happen. But no one has seen an 8.0, 9.0, 10.0 earthquake ever. Nobody alive has ever seen that. Now we're down to 98 viewers. Have we scared people off? I hope not. I'm dead serious about this, guys. I could not be more serious than a heart attack. Everybody needs to know what's going on. Everybody needs to know what's going on. And it could happen at any time. It could happen at any time. Deborah says she's medical, so she can help with infections. I hope you're not the only one alive that will be able to do that. What else is going to happen? Bridges. Bridges are all up and down the entire coastline of North America, Canada and the United States. Bridges. Well, guess what? With that kind of shaking, the bridges aren't going to last very long at all. The bridges are going to be useless. The bridges are either going to go down or it will be impassable. If you don't already have a four-wheel drive vehicle, if you don't already own a four-wheel drive vehicle, and I'm telling you, a four-wheel drive SUV, a four-wheel drive Jeep, a motorcycle, a truck, you are going to be plumb out of luck. A motorcycle at least. A bicycle. When that earth starts shaking, you're not going to have very long before that whole area is going to be underwater. Within 20 to 30 minutes after that earth stops shaking, people better be headed east, a long distance east. I have family in Snohomish, Washington. I am concerned for my sister, her husband, my cousins. I have family up and down the entire west coast of North America. Their lives stand in the balance. Wilson said they had a 4.0 earthquake along the coastline. That's good. I'm glad you've had that. At least you have some kind of idea of what's going to happen. Can you imagine something twice or three times as strong? Yes, that's exactly what's going to happen. That is exactly what is going to happen. A 4.0, 3.8 in Newport Beach last week is nothing. I saw that earthquake hit. I spoke to my family. I spoke to city councilmen in Newport Beach. Yes, people were shook up at both, but most of them said, oh, that's nothing. We have those earthquakes all the time. Well, guess what? It's not just going to be all the time like they're saying. They're not seeing 3.8, 4.0s all the time. Occasionally. I'm telling you right now in Los Angeles, greater Los Angeles area, you folks are going to see at least a 6.5 to 7.0 earthquake hit in the greater Los Angeles area. Probably out east along the San Andreas Fault. Okay? Judge Roy Bean is asking us here, were you able to see the digital animation of the earthquake and tsunami simulations? Yes, I have. Yes, I have. Water levels placed over topographical maps. It's not pretty, guys. It's not pretty. I know what's going to happen. I have a very good idea of what's going to happen. I hope to work with Judge Roy Bean and others along the coastline, the west coast of North America. I hope to be able to work with you people to help you and your communities get through what's going to happen. Songstress Griffin is asking, how about Colorado, Denver area? Let me tell you this. What happens along the west coast of North America, along the coastline? This is the largest earthquake that anybody alive has ever seen. That seismic energy is not going to just be along the coastline. I've told you it's going to shake Alaska all the way down into northern Mexico. It's also going to spread out along the entire continental United States and Canada. The further it goes east, the less shaking it's going to be. But we are talking about a 10.0 earthquake. Nobody alive has ever seen that happen. That 10.0 earthquake is going to spread across the entire continent. By the time it gets to the East Coast, it might be 5.0 large quake. But it's going to inundate those areas. It's going to shake everybody else along the entire United States and Canada. Everybody's going to feel the shaking. I promise you, everybody is going to feel the shaking. And this is no joke. This is not a joke. I am so serious about this. It's not just the people along the coastline. Yes, we talk about that, because that is where a great majority of the fatalities and injuries are going to be. But this is going to be a spectacular earthquake and tsunami. But the entire earth is going to shake. The entire earth is going to shake. I'm serious as a heart attack, guys. That's why I'm asking everybody up and down the coast and across the country, across Canada and the United States, to prepare. Judge Roy Bean is asking, when the mega-quake happens, will it rupture volcanic areas? It's very likely. The last time the Cascadia quake happened, there was a mariner on a boat out to sea. He said he thought he saw Glacier Peak and or Mount Rainier erupting. He thought he saw Glacier Peak and or Mount Rainier erupting. It could very well happen. Roger Reynolds is saying this: Hawaii may be underwater. Let me tell you this as well. The last time the Cascadia megathrust earthquake happened, we had that tsunami I told you about, right? Well, guess what? That tsunami also went across the entire Pacific Basin to Japan. The people in Japan kept immaculate records. Immaculate records. We know the date that it happened as a result of the Japanese records. We know the date that it happened, because Japan also got hit by the tsunami. We talked about Hawaii may be underwater. You're right. You're absolutely right, Roger. But it's not just Hawaii. All of the other outlying islands around Hawaii may also be underwater. But what about Indonesia? What about the islands around Japan? East and west of Japan. How about Australia? How about Tonga and Samoa? Probably. Folks, I'm talking because this is real. This is something that we need to absolutely take charge of, because nobody else is doing it. Nobody else is doing it, guys. I really appreciate Judge Roy being here in on this conversation. That means he's serious about what we're saying. He is serious about what we're saying. Santress is saying she appreciates the information. Santress, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do to prepare? Richard Smith is over on the other side of the continent, Nova Scotia, Canada. He's also going to feel some of this shaking that's going on. Don Patoka is over in Utah. Don Patoka has also been preparing. Don Patoka is a very good friend of mine, just south of Salt Lake City, Utah. He's putting out a great lot of information for you. Don Patoka is always putting out good information here in the chat. He says here in the chat, you may want to research before things go sour. Primitive outdoor survival. Herbal medicines of the past and present. In case you might realize a surprise. A new normal. What is normal now is not going to be normal then. What is normal now is not what is normal then. Judge Roy Bean Jr. is asking, is the Earth going to go supernova? No, I don't think so. But the Earth is going to shake. I think the entire Earth, the planet, is going to shake. We don't know what happened the last time it hit. But this is going to be a major, major, major earthquake. Something that nobody alive has ever seen. And it's probably going to happen in the next 5 years. Some scientists are saying, oh, it probably is not going to hit for 25 years. Others are saying 15 years. Some scientists are saying 5 years, 10 years. I do not think the Cascadia earthquake has much more than 5 years before it's going to hit. And probably sooner than that. That's why we talk about this so frequently. I want to make sure that we get the information out. That's why we talk about emergency preparedness. Polly Purebred's here in the chat. She says the Bible says the earth will shake like a drunkard. Yeah. Yes, the scriptures say that. I have read that throughout the scriptures, Polly. And the scriptures are right. The scriptures are right. Folks, I'm dead serious about what we talked about today. We started talking about the San Andreas Fault in Southern California. The San Andreas Fault is going to open up majorly within the next 2 years. And I do not think we have that long. I do not think we have that long, and the San Andreas Fault is going to open up in a major, major earthquake that is going to destroy much of Los Angeles and San Diego and the Imperial Valley in Southern California and northern Mexico. That is just a San Andreas Fault. What is going to happen when the volcanoes erupt? We have volcanoes in Southern California. We talk a lot about the Salton Sea, Salton Butte volcano. We talk about the volcano over in northern Mexico, Cerro Prieto volcano. On my programs here in the last 5 years, we talked about the volcano over in Walnut, La Puente, California. Yes, a volcano in Southern California. It's shaking now. I will show you more of the seismogram at Walnut, La Puente tomorrow. But I'm telling you right now, that volcano is shaking. And a lot of people don't even realize they're living in the caldera of the volcano. They're living on top of the lava rock that was left over when that volcano last erupted. They don't even realize that. We have volcanoes further north in Southern California. We have a volcano over Ridgecrest, China Lake. When the 7.1 earthquake hit in Ridgecrest just a few years ago, we were told that there was magma in tunnels that the Navy had in the desert. And at first I said, oh, those people don't know what they're talking about. Well, guess what? Further research said, and I have proof of it now, some of my friends had their son, or should I say sons, that were hired by the Navy to go down into the tunnels in protective equipment to help rescue equipment that the government had put in those tunnels. And they saw the red hot magma down in the tunnels there. Well, guess what? They did not have to tell me twice that the magma was down in those tunnels. I did further research. Guess what? There is a volcano at China Lake. There is a volcano at China Lake, and I can prove that. There's a volcano further north, the Koza Volcanic Field. The Koza Volcanic Field. There's also volcanoes west of there. We've shown you on the maps where those volcanic fields are. Most people had no idea. I've also showed you over in Los Angeles. There's volcanoes everywhere. There's volcanoes in Northern California. We keep talking to you about that. We keep showing you earthquakes and tremors and volcanoes in California, Oregon and Washington, and even in Canada. Judge, I appreciate you being here tonight. I thank you for being here. Judge, if you have questions, don't hesitate to call me. My telephone number is very much all over this program. You can call me any morning, late morning. Tuesday morning, I'm pretty much tied up because I have a pre-specified telephone conversation. It's not actually telephone conversation. It's a teleconference with the people at JPL in Pasadena, California. That's been ongoing for the past 2.5 years. And I also have frequent conversations with the volcanologists and scientists up in Reykjavik, Iceland. The Judge, I would welcome your call and help answer your question and help you, your family, and other people in your area. Help prepare you all for what's going to happen. Because it's going to happen. It's literally when. It's not if, it's when. Does anybody have any questions about anything we talked about? Does anybody have any questions about anything that we've talked about? There isn't one question that's a dumb question. Everybody's questions here are very perfect. And I'm going to say perfect, because I believe we've touched on every question, and I've tried to give an honest answer as I possibly can. Is there any place safe? No. Safety is a relative word. Safety is a relative word. In past episodes of this program, we've talked about the Cascadia megathrust earthquake. We've talked about safe places before, and where you might possibly go to be more safe than the coastline. We've done that. One stream is asking, could the eruption of Mount Rainier cause a mega-quake? No. But the mega-quake could cause the eruption of Mount Rainier or Mount St. Helens. It could happen. I'm being honest with you. It could happen. That was a great question. Thank you for that. Roger Reynolds says, great chat, guys. I really agree. I appreciate all of those who've been here on the chat. You guys have answered great. You guys have answered and asked great questions. You've helped everybody else here. And many times I've read your chats here on the air because the chats help everybody. Everybody who might not be watching the chats, they're watching this program or just listening to it. I'm trying to get this information out as far as possible, because everybody here is going to face this. There isn't anyone alive here in the Americas that's not going to face this. It absolutely is going to happen. Do you guys have any more questions? Judge, do you have any more questions for me tonight? I appreciate you being here. Don says the only bad question is one that you don't ask. You're right. Does anybody have any questions? We're going to talk about this a lot more. This is not our only conversation. I promise you, this is not our only conversation. Heidi Petrick says, could screwing 2x4s to the inside of the rooms of my mobile home strengthen it? I don't think so. It might help, but I don't think it's going to completely strengthen it. Your mobile home is made with 2x2s and drywall. Mobile homes don't like earthquakes, just like mobile homes don't like tornadoes. Captain Apina is asking when is this supposed to happen? My opinion, the Cascadia megathrust earthquake could happen in the next 5 years. All the evidence is pointing to that. All of the evidence is pointing to that. Scientists are saying 15 to 25. I don't think it's going to take that long. There is so much going on, both earthquakes and volcanism-wise, I don't think it's going to take that long. Roger Reynolds says, I feel we're living like in the days of Noah, which is scary enough. I agree. But the Lord said this, that he's not going to destroy the world by water this time. The world is going to be destroyed by fire. Jay Rothfuss said in the Japanese uranium waste sent to Utah recently, that only is going to make matters worse. And it's not just the Japanese uranium sent to Utah. Uranium is being sent from all points of the world, including all over the United States. There is a waste disposal site at Hanford, Washington. But 2.5 years ago, I discovered seismograms showing magma at the levels of where the dangerous uranium and plutonium has been stored down in the tunnels around Hanford, Washington. And I notified the politicians, and you want to know what they said? You don't know what you're talking about. Really? And then after that, the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network started cutting the seismograms off, as if to stop me from talking about it. Because heaven forbid they want anybody to know exactly what's going on. That's why PNSM, you can rarely see any seismograms around Hanford anymore. I started seeing the seismograms disappear. And so I stopped showing seismograms because it was trash. All the seismograms showing around Hanford were trash. Occasionally we'll see a good seismogram, but that's all. Occasionally. Once in a blue moon. Because the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network and USGS don't want them being shown. They take them down and destroy the information. That's what they do best. Heaven forbid that the information gets out to the public, because they don't want it to happen. I talked to the politicians. They basically said they don't care. Oh, we'll look into it. But then I never heard a word one back from about it. Nothing. And yet I am somewhat of an expert when it comes to this. I've done the research, but nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to talk about it. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, I appreciate you all being here. I care about you. I love you and your families. That's why I am on the air. I care. If you want to donate to our program, I gave you my address, 104 North Green Street, Box 105, Morganton, North Carolina. Zip code is 28655. You can send us cards and letters, and you can send a donation inside your cards and letters, which we would greatly appreciate. You can donate to our PayPal. Immediately after this program is over, within the first 10 minutes, in the program description, I will have 2 PayPal location addresses where you can donate to our PayPal. We also have a Cash App. We appreciate your donations. We appreciate each one of you and all that you do to help support this program. I care, or I would not be here. Judge, if I can ever help you, don't hesitate. If I can ever help any one of you, don't hesitate. You can also send me an email. My mods have put this email up already in the chat. Our email address is rltnspdema@gmail.com. On a stream says address again, please. 104 North Green Street, Box 105, Morganton, Morganton, North Carolina. Zip code is 28655. If you have any suggestions, any questions, any complaints, or anything that you want me to discuss or ask me, don't hesitate to send me an email. I will talk to you. I will talk to you. Mr. Mogus says, love the hair, Ron. I'm only trying to imitate the President of the United States here. No, I'm not. I had this hair long before he did. Anyway, folks, I love you. I care about you. Now, I have a couple of scriptures I want to read to you, as I normally do at the end of this program. All of a sudden, the people that were watching this program earlier have left. Now we're down to 90 people watching this program. Isn't that interesting? Folks, I'm going over to 2 Corinthians today, chapter 9, verses 6, 7, and 15. This is Paul talking to the Corinthians, and this again is important. But this I say, he which soweth sparingly shall reap also sparingly. He that which soweth bountifully shall reap also bountifully. Every man according as he purposeth in his heart. So let him give, not grudgingly, or of necessity. For God loveth a cheerful giver. Isn't this exactly what we have been discussing tonight? Being prepared. Being prepared. Paul then says this to the Corinthians. This also is about us. Actually, I'm going down to, this time I'm going down to, I'll go down to verse 11. I was only going to go over 15, I'm going to verse 11. 2 Corinthians 9, verse 11. Being enriched in everything to all bountifulness, which causes through us thanksgiving to God. For the administration of this service not only supplieth the want of the saints, but is abundant also by many thanksgivings unto God. Whilst by the experiment of this ministration they glorify God for your professed subjection unto the gospel of Christ, and for your liberal distribution unto them and unto all men, and by their prayer for you, which long after you for the exceeding grace of God in you. Thanks be unto God for his unspeakable gift. What is his unspeakable gift? The crucifixion and resurrection of his Son, Jesus Christ, the Son of God. Brothers and sisters, I have spoken extensively about what we talked about tonight. Do not hesitate to send me an email about what we talked about. Don't hesitate to talk about it. Talking about it is going to give us further information. Talking about it is going to spread the information we've already talked about tonight. I want everybody to understand how important this is. I want you all to understand the importance of what we've spoken about tonight. This is absolutely necessary. God bless you. God be with you this day and always. God be with you until we meet again. If anything else happens tonight, we'll be back on the air to discuss it as soon as the information becomes available. Otherwise, we will be back on the air tomorrow evening at just after 6 p.m. 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Judge, thank you for being with us. All of you, thank you for being with us. We appreciate you. Songstress Griffin just gave us another $5 super chat. Thank you, Ms. Griffin. I appreciate that. God bless you for that. We appreciate all of your donations to our program. We need the donations to stay on the air. We really do. We need all of your donations to stay on the air. It's getting harder and harder to stay on the air. The prices keep going up. And I have to have good bandwidth or we can't be on the air. God be with you until we meet again. Don, all of our mods, thank you for being here. God bless you all. I love you all. Please know that. God be with you until we meet again. We will see you on the other side. Good night, everybody. Much love.